Hi butterflies, welcome to my garden. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And now let's get into the video. Hi everyone, it's your girl Calypso and I'm back again. So today I'm just gonna touch on something that's a little bit more serious. But I just want to preface this by saying that this is not a feel sorry for me or a victim type of video. This is just a thought piece and opinion piece, if you may. Um, I just want to say that being a trans woman, sometimes it can be such a trepidatious journey, and because it seems like there's so much to deal with coming from every angle at different times, and it's just constant. It just seems to be constant. And I'm just going to talk about it. So it is what it is. I'm not doing it for the purpose of offending anyone, but if anybody gets offended, it is what it is. Don't fight me, fight your liver. Read a book. I don't know. And this is in reference to first of all, let me start with the cisgender, biological females, genetic women, especially the TERFs, and the TERF adjacent as well. There's a sense of monopoly and entitlement to the word woman, and this TERF specifically, or the TERF adjacent specifically, those are the groups that I'm specifically referring to. And everybody who thinks like that, that's why I say TERF adjacent. There's a monopoly or a sense of entitlement when it comes to the word woman, where they are the only ones allowed to have access to that word. They are the only ones who are allowed to use that word, and everybody else is just a counterfeit as a result. So there's just this monopoly, and so there's a constant divide where it's there's this YouTube girl that I was watching, and her name is Dinero TV. This is who she is, and she does have I enjoy her content, and sometimes she can be a little bit intense, but I don't mind that. It doesn't bother me. I still enjoy her content. I'm just giving that as a preface. And she said something in one of her videos where she stated something specifically to this topic, because it was about Nikita Dragon, who did something, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but she kind of stirred up, this Nikita person kind of stirred up some kind of drama, especially among black cisgender girls. And so Erica in response said something like, there's a lot of women like that, there's a lot of women who are like the black cisgender women, or women of color, period. There's a lot of women, not just women of color, there's a lot of women who feel like they are the gatekeepers of femininity, and this is usually based on their proximity to men. I think that was the point that Erica was making in her video. And that just, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Like, a lot of these women feel like they are the gatekeepers of femininity, and they have sole entitlement, and they have sole monopoly of the word woman. And it's almost like, and this entitlement therefore makes them see us as competitors as opposed to allies. And a lot of women already see each other as competitors, especially when it comes to dealing with access to men, especially when it comes to dealing with proximity to men. A lot of women see each other as competition. So therefore, how dare a trans woman come into that space and, add to the competition as well? How dare a trans woman step into the space and call themselves women when we already have a hard time with each other? So how dare this set of girls come in here and occupy space and be in our be in our group? You see what I mean? You see where I'm going with this? So rather than seeing us as allies, they see us as competition, especially when it comes to dealing with men, that's a whole nother conversation, but yeah. So this is fun, and all this competitiveness and this feud, this unending feud that has been going on between cis women and trans women, it is fueled this feud is further fueled when men say things like, when men, draw this exaggerated compare and contrast between a trans girl versus a cis girl, and when they say things like, oh, a lot of you girls are not even as pretty as the trans girls. A lot of trans girls are prettier than cis girls. A lot of trans girls are better than cis girls because they understand men, or whatever myth that they want to come up with. There's a lot of men who think that way, especially a lot of men who are trans oriented. So I guess a lot of these men feel like in order to justify their attraction to a trans girl, they have to put down a cis girl and be like, oh, trans girls are better. Trans girls are, I don't know. I'm not going to go into the specifics of some of the things that I've heard, or some of the examples that I've heard from men, but yeah, you can see where I'm going with this. So therefore, when they draw this comparison and this contrast, it almost like a divide and conquer. It creates some kind of divide and conquer between trans girls and cis girls, and it puts us, for the most part, in harm's way. It makes us vulnerable to being abused, especially when dealing with insecure women. We get the tail end of the hate from women because of this ideology that has been pumped into them from men as well. So but what some of these women don't realize is, just because some of these men might say trans girls are better, doesn't mean that they're going to treat us any better than they've already treated you. The same way he broke your heart is the same way he's probably going to break my heart. The same. Haven't you been, like, some of you women actually have to pay attention to the statistics, because we are the ones we're the ones getting murdered, and we are the ones getting killed by men who actually are supposed to like us. A lot of them still end up killing us. There's been so many cases of trans attacks by men. So they're not treating us any better than they're treating you. So that makes the whole competition between the cis versus the trans is stupid, because if anything, we're meant to be allies. So the whole thing where you feel the need to be competitive with me because to increase your proximity or your access to men is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there's that as well. And look, I'm used to jealous women all day long. I'm used to dealing with insecure women all day long, and their dangerous, ridiculous, archaic, outdated rhetoric. When they say, oh, you can have a baby, you cannot physically have a baby, so therefore you're not a real woman. You do not have your periods, so therefore you're not a real woman. Okay, that's good and fine, but to your argument, there's a lot of women who are also genetic born women, biological women, cisgender women, whatever have you. There's a lot of women millions and millions of women like this, who cannot physically carry out those functions. They cannot physically have babies, or some of them have a default where they can have periods. Does that deduct from their womanhood? Does that minimize their womanhood or their femininity? It doesn't. So to that argument, that makes that argument mundane and pointless. It doesn't make any sense anymore, and it has been used over the decades to put down trans women, and it's time to bury that argument, because it's out of date. It's run through, tired, it's late, it's delayed. That's it. That argument has gotten stale and obsolete, and just y'all need to leave it alone. Y'all bitches need to leave it alone. And yes, I used the B word. I apologize, but yeah, I'm starting to get a little passionate about this, because it's so triggering, and there's so many personal instances that I've been through that I could easily name to support what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm just gonna move on. For those of you who are new to my channel, who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, I have done a full breakdown in my videos where I talked about J.K. Rowling and her dangerous and problematic rhetorics and her stances on transgender women as well. So you can refer to those videos, and I also did another video where I was specifically talking about the TERFs. I call them pseudo-feminists. I also did a full breakdown in those videos and so for those who are new to my channel, please refer to those videos, so that way you can get a proper understanding of where I'm coming from and why I feel the way I feel about this group of women. That's it. And now, as for the heterosexual, trans-oriented men, I have something for you people too. Okay? especially in reference to the simps, the narcissistic men, the low value men, the dusty men, the Fruit Loops, as soon as they don't get what they want, all of a sudden you're a man. They refer to you as a man in the most disrespectful way. A lot of them, not all of them. Some of them, as soon as they're not able to get what they want from you, they get so disrespectful with it, and all of a sudden you get called all kinds of names from A to Z, and everything, you get called everything but a child of God, and they tell you things like, oh, you'll never be a real woman anyway, you're just a faggot in a dress. I've seen instances online as well, with comments on the girls' pages, and it is shocking. It is shocking. And y'all wonder why some of us have trust issues. Just saying. Like some of these men, and I'm using the word men loosely, some of these men just act like bitches, period. They act like bitches of the lowest form. And that's it. I discussed a personal instance in one of my previous videos, so you can refer to that and see where I'm coming from. And yeah, look, I'm not bashing men. I love men, but there's a specific section of this men that I vociferously avoid. Like, I vehemently avoid this group of men. And it's not that hard to tell, because all you have to do is ask a whole bunch of questions, a whole bunch of, fireball questions, and the truth reveals itself. It doesn't take that long, because like I said, they're simps, they're narcissists, they're low value men, they're dusty men, and they're Fruit Loops. So a lot of them don't really have that much smarts in order to disguise who they truly are. You just get to see it from a mile away. And it is what it is. So I'm not a man hater. I'm definitely not a woman hater. If anything, I just feel sorry for those women who are so insecure that they feel they need to put us down. Like, if anything, in a perfect world, we are all supposed to be allies. We are all supposed to be, whatever happens to sisterhood, we're all meant to be allies. We're not meant to be each other's competition. If you want him that badly, sis, you can have him, okay? And all the crap that comes with him. Because I can tell you one thing, the same way he would treat you is the same way he's going to treat me. He's not going to treat me any differently because I'm trans. That's just what it is. A man is going to treat me how he's going to treat me. It is what it is. It all comes down to compatibility. If we're not compatible, it's just not going to work. It doesn't matter if you're cis or trans. If you're not compatible, you're not compatible. And that's just the truth and the reality of things. So you can retire that whole competitiveness that you're trying to see trans women as a threat, because we're not a threat, if anything. The same thing that has to do with men. I am the prize. And that's all I'm going to say. I am the prize. Because I am a damn good catch. And that's the truth. Now, I've talked about cis men. I've talked about cis women. Now I'm going to talk about cisgender gay men. Okay? Just because we are siblings of the LGBT plus flag, just because we're children of the rainbow, it doesn't mean that some of you don't do some stupid shit too. There's a lot of gay men who... Some of these gay men get this absurd jealousy when it comes to trans girls, because they feel like we get, and I've seen this rhetoric time and time again too. That's why I'm referring to it. A lot of them get this absurd jealousy because they feel like trans girls, we always end up getting the guys that they have a crush on. We always end up getting the guys that they fantasize about. And they always get irritated or pissed off when they see somebody who they assumed was gay, and then he turns out not to want them, but he's more attracted to a trans girl than a gay man. Does that make any sense? So there's a sense of jealousy there as well. I've seen a lot of gay men who have made these references, even the popular ones on YouTube. I've seen a few who have made that comment, like, oh, that there's a guy who said, I used to feel some kind of way. I feel some kind of way about all these girls. They always get all the hot guys. That's some of the things that I've heard them say. That's why I'm coming up with that sentiment, because, and it's like I said, it's absurd, because then again, this is you basically making a man look like a trophy. Like, okay, let's say you get the guy that you had a crush on. Okay, is that your trophy? Is that your biggest life achievement? And who's to say that he's going to be any good to you anyway? He might blow your back out, but who's to say that he might be good to you? Did I just say blow your back out? Sorry, mommy. Um, but that's just, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. It doesn't. But here we go. That's just the same thing that we deal with. So as a trans woman, it is so tiring because you deal with it from cis women. You deal with it from cis men, heterosexual men, black, white, whatever. You deal with that mess from them. You deal with that mess from cis women. And then you come into your community and then you deal with the same mess from people who are supposed to have our backs, the LGBT plus community as well. And I think it's ironic that the T is at the end of the LGBT because I'm not gonna I'm not gonna emphasize on that one. I'll just leave it at that. But hey, also another thing that I wanted to add because I forgot to mention this is like ultimately for all the women, men, and gay men, for all of these people who see trans girls as competition, especially when it comes to increasing your access or your proximity to men, always remember this. Men, and no offense to men everywhere because I love men, okay? But men are like bosses. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Men are like bosses. Point being, there will always be another one coming. And that's the truth. So all my trans sisters and trans brothers, stay strong and maybe, yeah, just stay strong and find the strength within you just to go through life. Because let me tell you something, it is rough sometimes. It is rough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is rough sometimes. So you just got to pick and choose and be a little bit street smart and learn who your real enemies are. I'm not your competition, sis. The world is already giving us a hard time. We just need to try to find ways to lift each other up because it is hard sometimes. It's like trans women versus the world. I think that's what I'm going to name this video. But because that's just the way it feels sometimes. And it'll be so nice in the perfect world to meet somebody who makes going through life a little bit easier. And that's what I have to say for the day. So look, as I say in all my videos, protect your energy, spread love, keep the peace, and just above all, be kind. And that's it for today. So, fly high, my butterflies. Mwah, 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 mwah. Bye.